Hey everybody, this is Brandon Ford and welcome to another edition of the Blind Rage podcast. For this week's feature commentary, we are doing 2007's Hostel Part 2, written and directed by Eli Roth, starring Bijou Phillips, Lauren German, and Heather Matarazzo. I am using the Blu-ray unrated edition. If you want to watch along, that's your best bet. If not, I'm sure you can find it streaming. It's, Hostel movie. So, yeah, you should be able to find it easily. By the way, side note, before I get into this, I'm surprised at how scarce Hostel 3 has become. It's very difficult to find it on Blu-ray or DVD at a reasonable price. It seems like it's gone out of print, but you can still rent it on Amazon Prime. But we're not doing Hostel Part 3, we're doing Hostel Part 2. And before we begin, I have to get the usual plugs out of the way. I want to encourage you to please check out my books in paperback and Kindle editions by going to Amazon.com or the Amazon app, typing in Brandon Ford. There you'll find my author page as well as several of my titles in, like I said, paperback and Kindle editions. You can also find my titles in audiobook format by going to Audible.com or the Audible app and typing in Brandon Ford. You can also follow me on Instagram at writer Brandon Ford. I just started using my Twitter account again. So if you want, you could follow me there at Brandon Ford. And lastly, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, suggestions, recommendations for movies or TV shows or TV show episodes you'd like me to do, please feel free to email me directly at blindragepod81@gmail.com or send me an instant message on Instagram. So we are going to begin Hostel Part 2 with a 3 count. So if you're watching along, please have your movie queued up, because we are going to get started in 3, 2, 1, play. Fuck. My Gatorade fell over. Alright. Well, good thing it didn't mess anything up. So, yeah, this is Hostel, which was released in June 2007. And, well, I'm laughing because Eli Roth has said in interviews that he did not want to make a sequel. He did not want to make a sequel to the original Hostel. What he wanted to do was do a continuation of Hostel, of the story. That's literally the definition of a sequel. Pick up a dictionary, look up sequel, and it literally says a continuation of a previously published work, whether it's literary or cinematic or whatever. That's what a sequel is. This is one of the many reasons why I really don't care for Eli Roth, because he's not anywhere near as smart as he seems to think he is, or seems to proclaim he is. And he's always saying that his movies have these deeper meanings and hidden depth and these hidden political messages. And in all actuality, it's all superficial. It's all right what it is on the surface. There's no hidden meaning. There's nothing special to be said about anything he's written or directed. And as I've said, I'm sure before, if you look at his more recent endeavors, in particular, his writing, he hasn't grown at all as a writer. He's not a good writer. His dialogue is really bad. And if you've been writing movies for over 15 years, well, I don't know when the hell his last. I think his most recent movie that he wrote was Knock Knock, and that was like 2015. And the first feature he wrote was Cabin Fever. Well, yeah, but well, The Green Inferno was written before that, but so yeah, let's say he's been writing features for over 15 years, and you're still saying, making your characters say things are gay. You no, you haven't grown at all. You're still an idiot. Um, so this sequel continues. um, After the events of the original film. Uh, so, since they say that, as he is called in the original Edward Salad Hands, they discover that they discover his body in the bathroom. So I can only, even though this is a dream, I can only assume that this is continuing after the theatrical ending as opposed to the director's cut ending, which includes Paxton abducting the little girl who was the older guy's daughter. And by the way, that guy was like 70 and the little girl was like 5. Um, but yeah, as I said in the commentary for Hostel Part 1, I hated that ending because it made no sense. Because why would he take his vengeance out on this little girl who had done nothing? Um, so we have Jay Hernandez reprising his role briefly. And then we're going to see Jordan Ladd in a second. Jordan Ladd of Cabin Fever. And she's playing his girlfriend, who she says in this movie that she took him back, that they had an on again, off again relationship, I guess. And it appears to me that that was written in because in the original film, there is no mention of Paxton having a girlfriend. So she had to say, oh, well, I took you back because of blah, 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 blah. And then she does nothing but bitch and moan because he's having PTSD and she can't sleep. What? Um, she knows that the other guy, um, the one who got his Achilles tendons sliced, and just kept saying, "Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck," 10,000 times. Whatever the fuck his name was. She knows that he's dead. So she knows that there's obviously some validity to what Paxton is afraid of. Um, Yet she really doesn't show any sensitivity or empathy towards this guy she's supposed to love. I can't believe the scene is still going on. I've noticed that I say that a lot when I'm doing commentaries for movies now, because when I'm doing these commentaries, as I've said several times before, I oftentimes see the movies in a completely different light because I'm looking at them in a more analytical way. And it really shows, or I'm really able to see, so to speak, um, when scenes are overlong. And this scene is way overlong. And especially for a scene that's just supposed to be a dream. And it's kind of reminiscent in as reminiscent of Friday the 13th, Part 2, which opens with the surviving character of the original film having a nightmare, waking up, and then being killed. So it's, yeah, the same thing, pretty much. And, yeah, so now Paxton is finally awake after sleeping for about 12 hours.
I'm supposed to take these with food. I just want to know if you want anything.
She's saying, I want you to talk to someone. She's not saying, talk to me. She's saying, I want you to talk to someone. Go get some help and leave me the fuck alone, pretty much.
What the fuck am I supposed to tell her? She'll go straight to the police. No, no one should. You don't get it. These people are tied into everyone. Somebody starts asking questions, they're gonna come after me, and they're gonna find me.
A filmmaker friend of mine, who I shall remain nameless, because I don't think he listens to my commentaries.
I told your sister we're gonna
But he pointed out that it is very much a cheap trick in screenwriting
know that, right?
when a character is supposed to say something expositional to another character who is not entirely in the know as far as what is going on and what's happened. And generally, what the one character does is say something or say, "You don't get it, do you?" And then explain the whole situation. And that's exactly what Paxton just did. And now his head is cut off, and a cat was eating um, the the viscera of his open neck. Oh no, did that happen yet? No, it didn't happen yet. Um, I also what I okay. First, I gotta say this too before I forget because this was something that I've wanted to mention. Um, even okay, wait, real quick. She discovers his headless body, but you don't see her reaction. It just cuts to there, the person on the motorcycle whose identity is hidden under the. And that kind of gives me a night school film feel, the slasher film Night School, uh, and that and the shrubs being trimmed, or the trees being trimmed outside, made me think of Pieces. So this movie definitely has. I don't know whether they're intentional or unintentional, but they definitely feel like they're referencing other films. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was intentional, or if it was intentional and Eli Roth just didn't want to say so because he doesn't. He wants everybody to think he's this brilliant, amazing filmmaker. Ah, Freudian slip, right there. Filmmaker on par with some of the all-time greats, and he's not. Um, but first thing I wanted to say is while this first came out in theaters, and he was making the publicity rounds and doing press for the film, one thing that I remember, because I was 25 when this came out, so I wasn't a kid. And I do remember pretty clearly when this came out, and he was doing a lot of interviews, and one thing that he kept hyping was the ending. He kept saying, "Oh my God, I guarantee you've never seen an ending like this before. This is one of the most outrageous, most fucking gruesome endings you'll ever see in a horror film." Basically, lodging his tongue up his own asshole so far he's licking his own tonsils. And then when I finally did see the movie, and I finally did see the ending, I literally had to rewind it because I thought I was missing something, which wasn't, you know, out of the realm of possibility. Even because being that I'm visually impaired, but my vision was a lot better back in 2007, so I was able to watch movies with a little more ease. So I did see what happened, although I wasn't sure that I saw what happened because what I saw was so basic and bland and underwhelming that I thought I was seeing something else. It's just like, oh, okay. Well, a woman gets decapitated, and there's a bunch of kids playing soccer with her head. Whoop de fucking do. So stupid. Um. Also, another thing that I thought was interesting and funny at the same time about this film is that in the script, he essentially addressed all of the criticisms of the original film. Um, there was mention of objectification of women because of the prostitutes in the red light district. There's a lot of female nudity in the original film, so we don't get one, but we get two dicks in Hostel Part 2. Not one, but two. So there's that. And there was, of course, a lot of negative press because of the largely homophobic dialogue. So, what does he do? He makes one of the lead characters a lesbian. Oh god. Eli Roth, you're so transparent. And um he gives the characters, the three main characters, somewhat more of a backstory, and which there really isn't any. The only character who really has any well, no, none of them really have a backstory. They just have little pieces of a past. Paxton's being the biggest because he has the incident with the little girl drowning, which, by the way, makes that alternate ending even more nonsensical because he had his own PTSD because he couldn't save a drowning child, a drowning little girl, and yet he goes and abducts another little girl to presumably murder her. Yeah, so here's that. And the only thing that we know about the dipshit who gets his Achilles tendons severed is that he wants to be a writer, and that's it. Oh, and Paxton is studying for the bar. Um, as for Oleg, all we know about him is that he's from Iceland and he is divorced and has a child. But the one thing that they all have in common is that they all like to fuck and want to fuck and are willing to do whatever it takes to fuck, to get on whatever train, to go to whatever country, just to get some ass, because they're that fucking shallow. But we're not here to talk about Hostel. Oh, no, no, no. We're here to talk about the far superior Hostel Part 2. Oh, God. Much like everybody, I was quite surprised to learn that Heather Matarazzo, or Matarazzo, I get, well, that's Italian, and I'm Italian, so yes, it's Matarazzo. I was surprised to learn that she was in the movie. In the movie, because I'd never seen her in any other movies, I don't think, besides Welcome to the Dollhouse, which is a movie I really, really enjoy. And I definitely hadn't seen her in any other horror films or would associate her being in any horror films. So it was very surprising to learn that she was a part of the cast. Also, didn't know that she was a lesbian and in real life, and I sincerely doubt that Eli Roth knew that she was a lesbian. That had anything to do with her being cast and his and addressing the homophobia from the. Okay, that's going to be a callback right there. Um, Lauren German's character Beth, yes, Beth, abhors the word cunt, as do many women. And that's our trigger. It's our trigger word. When she hears cunt, it's like she goes crazy. Um, so, yeah, there's going to be a callback to that later. And, there is some. Getting back to Heather Matarazzo's character Lorna, there is something going on with her, but you never really know what it is. Not for sure. You just know that she's on medication and she seems a little emotionally unstable. And in the commentary track, Eli has said that he had intended the audience to perceive the medication that you see as being antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds. But it would be better, I think, to, instead of just show a bottle of pills with no label or an unreadable label and make the audience draw their own conclusions, give her give a little something else, give a little more depth. Lauren German too. I thought this was particularly hilarious. Not that she's bad in the movie by any means. I think she does well, especially with the material that she's given. But Eli Roth has said that he wanted her solely based on her performance in the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you don't know the remake of Chainsaw, or you've never seen it, or you're not sure who she was in the movie, Lauren German plays the hitchhiker who the kids in the van almost hit, and then they bring into the van, and she has these stupid lines about he's the bad man, and she pulls a gun out of her vagina, presumably, and shoots herself in the head or the mouth. So she's in the movie for a grand total of about 2.5 minutes. And based on that, Eli Roth said, I want her to be the main character of my next film. Oh, yes. Alright. I mean, I think he got lucky because she ended up doing, like I said, a good enough job based on what she was given. But I would have wanted to see a little more of her reel before putting her in the lead of a movie that was a follow-up to a sequel, by the way, to a movie that was a pretty big financial success. You would think that with all that in mind, there's the Harry Potter looking guy from the fucking first one, and he's introduced, or they brought him back because they wanted, or it was important for Eli Roth to let the audience know that he was in on the whole thing with the um whatever that fucking thing is called, the murder club or whatever it is.
Hey, I know that. They have it every year. Yeah. Lots of music, dancing, costumes.
Oh my gosh. Could we go? Sounds kind of gay.
We had to get a that sounds kind of gay, of course, by Bijou Phillips, Whitney, who I think is the least likable of the girls. While Lorna is a little annoying, I think Bijou Phillips is just, ugh, or Whitney rather. She's kind of a biatch. Um, Also, I believe it is in the one of the commentaries. One of the commentaries for the on the DVD and the Blu-ray, of which there's four. Again, um, I'll talk about that in a second. It is said that when Heather Matarazzo arrived on set, she had been a year sober. I didn't even know that she had any kind of substance or alcohol abuse problems, but she'd been a year sober and she was ready to work. Good for her. So she explained that, and I was being sincere. I wasn't being snotty there. I meant that. I meant good for her. Um, so she, because of the time difference, she was having trouble with her sleep or something, and she kept getting offered different kinds of narcotics, pharmaceuticals from the crew and guest members of the cast. I don't know. And she had to keep explaining to people that, I'm a year sober. I don't want that. Thank you though. And it supposedly, allegedly, Bijou Phillips got her by the throat and pressed her up against a wall and said that if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to make you break your sobriety by the end of this shoot. Wow. Mother Teresa over here.
That's what I'm talking about, huh?
These two fucking idiots. Um, so, as everyone, well, I guess a lot of people don't remember because this was like fucking 14 years ago. And, a work print of Hostel leaked, and I remember when it happened. Did I download it? I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. But anyway, a work print did leak, and it was downloaded by a lot of people. And according to a newspaper in, I believe, New Zealand, it was supposed to be the most pirated movie of all time, at least in 2007. I think that's a bit much. And if it's true, if it was true then, I'm sure it's nowhere near true anymore. But um, the movie didn't do very well. Well, I mean, it did okay. It did not do anywhere near as well as it was expected to. Um, because the original was such a financial success, this was expected to make probably twice that, twice what the original made, and it ultimately made 35 million worldwide and 17 million in the United States, and this was on a $10 million budget, so that's not too good. And I think, by the way, too, sidebar, Lorna offered these kids a smint. I'm pretty sure smints were a thing. I could be wrong, but I think they might have been a thing for about a minute and a half. I don't know, but maybe they still are, and they're just not very popular. Uh, Not everybody can be Altoids, but yeah, Eli Roth, when commenting on the lack of financial gain for this movie, he did reach for the fact that, the movie did have a work print that leaked, and that it was pirated, and that it was the most pirated movie of all time. He was reaching and reaching and reaching, and maybe it had maybe it played a role in it, but maybe the poor reviews played a role in it. You think a little bit? It's probably a little from column A, a little from column B. Maybe I was listening to a podcast talking about the movie, and they said that it was an interesting time for Hostel Part 2 to be released because it was kind of the end of the pretty much short-lived torture porn era, which began around the time of Saw, and at about 2007, these movies really weren't coming out anymore. The only torture porn movies that were coming out were Saw films. So it really, and I think it was because they hadn't really done so well in the box office. People were getting tired of these kinds of films, and that could also have been a factor in why Hostel Part 2 didn't fare as well. Interestingly enough, just the year before, because, the original Hostel had its American theatrical release in January of '06, and just a year and a half before, torture porn was doing quite well. But yeah, it really wasn't a thing anymore. I want to. This is a scene that goes on a little too long, too, I think. And I remember this just I'm commenting on this basing that on the most recent time I watched the movie. And I remember going on way too long, way too long, way too long.
Is there any problem here?
And yeah, because Stuart doesn't want to get the tattoo, and Stuart is the more reticent of the two friends. And we find out that Stuart doesn't really have any money, and his friend buys him this opportunity, and we are led to believe until the very last minute, pretty much, that Stuart is supposed to be, or Stuart is a sympathetic character. And he is until we're in the room with he and Beth. And he says he's not that guy, he's not that guy, he's not that guy, and he goes to let her go. And then all of a sudden he switches gears and he becomes a complete psychotic out of nowhere. Which I think was meant to be a twist, but doesn't work very well. And what works even less is his friend who buys Bijou Phillips' character, Whitney, who he's the one who's gung-ho about the whole thing and is, there like, yeah, let's do it. He's all happy about the tattoo and blah blah blah. And then after accidentally scalping Whitney, he can't go through with it and refuses. He flat out refuses. And I guess that's supposed to be the irony of the whole thing, but it is really just dumb, as is the majority of what is supposed to make this film special and stand out from the original. But I was talking about I was going to mention the commentaries, because I do remember when the original Hostel got a DVD release, there were people on people who had reviewed the DVD, and people on message boards at that time talking about how it was overkill to have Eli Roth do 4 commentaries, and he had been asked that apparently on MySpace, which was popular at the time. He'd been asked that by friends, he'd been asked that at conventions, he'd been asked that at premieres. Why are there so many commentaries on your movies? And he addressed that on one of the commentaries of this film, and he said that all the commentaries were not meant to be listened to back to back to back. They are all different in that they focus on different aspects of the film and are told from different perspectives. One, even though he is a part of all 4 of them, because, again, tongue up his own asshole. Because there is a producer, there's a writer, director commentary, there's a producer commentary, there's an actor commentary, and then there is another one, which I don't remember. I think it had to do with the special effects or something. I'm probably just making that up.
Did the guy make you some troubles?
I don't know.
He's fine.
What did he say to you?
Nothing. He just wanted to dance.
And this scene too with
Oh, he was not bothering me.
with what's her name, Beth. And when she was talking to Stewart and she kind of blows him off, and when he walks away, he says, I could have helped you. See, again, you know, none, all this, and then, like, the reveal of his character later.
So sorry. Such an idiot.
Or is this, no, did that even happen yet?
No, I insist. I insist.
This is probably about to happen now. Sorry, I don't know this movie inside out. But yeah, he says I could have helped you. So, yeah, all that, it doesn't gel. Because you have a character doing a total 180, and that would be fine if this was the kind of slasher film where, well, it's not even really a slasher film when you look at it. But if this was a slasher film that had a whodunit killer or whodunit subplot or whodunit element or component, and then when we find out who the killer is, we get that, you know, Stu and fucking Billy moment. Oh god, I can't believe I just referenced fucking Scream. But, you know, they were behind everything the whole time, so they were wolves in sheep's clothing. And I don't think Stewart necessarily is meant to be.
So, what brings you to this corner of the world?
For fire starter.
I don't know. And if I was in Prague, by the way, and this, or I don't know, well, this is supposed to be, or this was shot in Prague, I think. I don't know if this is meant to be Prague. No, I think this is supposed to be Slovakia. Yeah, there you go, Slovakia. All I know is if I was in Slovakia, I would not be talking to Americans. Nothing against Americans, of course, but you can talk to Americans right outside your own front door. You're in a different country. You want to experience different cultures. You want to meet new people. Why would you be hanging out with another American?
Switch over at the Divorce Act Hotel. Only been 3 centuries since anybody's had sex over there.
Oh, maybe your table's right.
I don't know, but the same podcast that I listened to,
About it another time. It's a small village, I'm sure.
that I mentioned was talking about.
Good night.
Good night, Beth.
Wait,
Did I tell you my name?
No, I heard your friend use it. But I forgot to tell you mine. I'm Stuart.
Good to meet you, Stuart. Good night.
he didn't say it, so I guess I missed it, or I guess it was in a different scene. I lost my. Oh, what was I saying? Something about the other podcast. Oh, the other podcast that I was saying to made a good point in saying that Beth is a character who is written more intelligently than than the other girls, and she's certainly smarter than the idiots in the first film. And, you know, she knows not to drink something that's been handed to her by a stranger, and she knows how to get her way out of the situation that she's in. Being, you know, that she is been bought property to be butchered. But yeah, she's not stupid. That is kind of refreshing in an Eli Roth film, because all the characters are generally idiots because he's not that smart.
What are you doing?
Um, Now, with the scene that's about to come up, which is, I think, the most notorious scene in the film, with Lorna being hung upside down and cut up by this woman who bathes in her blood, I heard some conflicting things here. I think, I'm not sure where I heard either one of them, but I heard that she could only be hung upside down for 5 minutes at a time. So they had to shoot for 5 minutes and then cut, let her regain her bearings, and then however long that took, and then start shooting again. But then I heard, I think from Eli Roth on one of his commentaries, that she trained for, I don't know, however many weeks in some apparatus that, in which, she hung upside down for like 3-minute intervals, and then 5-minute intervals, and then 7-minute intervals, and I think she got to 25 minutes or something like that. And then that's how long they were able to shoot the scene for. So, but I don't know which is true and which isn't. But to let the camera roll for 25 minutes is pretty long for any kind of scene. Or maybe, the camera wasn't necessarily rolling, but maybe she was hanging. I don't know. I wasn't there, obviously. But supposedly, however she was suspended, she was instructed on how to get down. So she felt safe, according to what was said. This did not come from her mouth, but she felt safe hanging up there because, and I can't see what's going on screen, but I think her hands are tied behind her back. So unless she knows how to, get out of the binds that are holding her hands, I don't know how she's able to get herself down if you can't, reach up.
Something makes you think this guy
I don't know.
doesn't have to act tough. He never has to say it.
This is such bullshit with this dialogue here.
You know that this guy's got the balls to do what few others can. And that's you after today, my friend. People are gonna fucking fear you. Linda is gonna fucking fear you.
Why?
Today is gonna pay off every day for the rest of our fucking lives.
And of course it's gonna fucking, everything is fucking, every other word is fucking. And I think that was one of the complaints too with the original Hostel, is that most of the dialogue was either gay slurs or 4-letter words. And there's another one.
It's how we fucking do
And there's another one. So apparently Eli Roth thinks that men talk like that, in particular heterosexual men. It is bad luck to toast with water. But that whole scene, I think, is such fucking bullshit, totally bogus, and it's something that Eli Roth just thought up on his own, where committing a murder leaves a stamp on you, on your presence, kind of like the tattoo. It's kind of like some sort of pheromone where people can sense that you've done something that makes you worthy of being feared, and that people can pick up on your dark side. And he's saying how good it is that his wife is going to fear him. And why is that a good thing? Why? Yeah, and saying that the friend's in a... I'm hoping that what's her name's in a coma. That's a great line right there. I think this is the infamous scene now with Lorna. I do think that it is for sure, at least for me, the scene that I think of when I think of the movie. I do, yeah. It is the main scene that stands out more than any other. And this scene and the stupid ending with the head being kicked around, because it was so burned into my mind that the ending was going to blow my mind, and that it was going to be nothing I'd ever seen before, and then it's just a head being kicked around. Whoop de fucking do. I think this is kind of like the equivalent to Paxton's torture in the first film, because initially the guy who paid for him, like toys with him a little bit and like snaps the scissors in his face and stuff. And that's what the woman does with dragging the blade of I think she's got a sai. She's like dragging it down her skin, and she really wants to get her good and scared before she does anything, which is I think what the guy in the first film does. So there are for sure definite echoes of the first film in this one. And a lot of people say that this is, in essence, a remake of the first film, only with girls as the three protagonists. And in some ways I agree with that, in some ways I don't. Because the girls, I mean, even though Whitney is really fucking annoying and unlikable, none of the girls are anywhere near as unlikable as the frat boy idiots in the first film. And the girls are actually here to travel abroad and to expand their horizons by experiencing different cultures and having that backpacker college experience. And in the first movie, it was all about smoking weed and getting laid, and that's basically it. I think this scene goes on for 6 minutes, and speaking of scenes that are over long, Jesus Christ. And I do think that this is a shock for the sake of shock scene too. And that's what a lot of the movies that Eli Roth favors are. Like a lot of the cannibal movies. And we have, I mean, of course he did his own little remake of Cannibal Holocaust, and we have Ruggero Deodato playing the cannibal in this movie, and Takashi Miike was in the first one, and he does J-horror, extreme J-horror, and I think Lucio Fulci is in one of these. I could be wrong, and I probably am. But there are no mistakes in Eli Roth's movies. This kind of stuff is all very intentional. And that definitely wasn't the scene with Lorna. That was, of course, for those in the know, and I'm clearly not one of them. But yeah, it was based on, I don't know if she was a character or if she was part of mythology. I think she was a countess, or I think she's known as the countess in the movie, or some shit like that. I don't know. But there was some character or some real life person who was said to have bathed in the blood of virgins to stay youthful. And that's what this was supposed to be a comment on. So, but yeah, ultimately what it ends up being is just a scene that's shock for the sake of shock. And if you wanted to pay homage to that scene, it could have been cut down a bit. And it is cut down a bit in overseas versions of the film, because it is the main scene that has gotten the film banned in certain countries. So I'm surprised it didn't. I don't know if it, how, well, it might have been. No, well, yes. I believe it is trimmed. I believe there are a couple of shots that are cut out in the R-rated version that was released for American cinemas. There are a couple of shots of that and the castration toward the end of the film with Stewart, and I think that's it. Which is surprising to me, because the MPAA is very, very trigger happy, so to speak, when it comes to slapping an NC-17 rating, especially on a horror film. I just love that NC-17 really doesn't mean shit anymore, and a lot of filmmakers don't even bother. As I've said before, it doesn't matter, because so many movies just go to video on demand, and sometimes they make more money that way.
Please help me! Please help me!
Just go away from me.
No, help me! These men are chasing me,
I
please!
tried to help, but you don't listen. Go away.
And if anything, though, I think that the NC-17 rating, especially if it's a horror film, and especially if you're an impressionable youth at a certain time when these films are coming out, it makes you want to see them more. If I found out that a horror film is rated NC-17, or, an erotic thriller or anything like that, I was definitely curious to know what got this an NC-17? What is so objectionable in this movie that it was given in the NC-17 rating? And it's why I saw some not so great movies, but it's also why I saw Showgirls. So, bonus. Love Showgirls.
Dorado.
I don't remember why, but I don't remember why, but I know that Eli Roth did say that there was I don't remember what it was rather, but there was a specific reason why he didn't include subtitles when the characters were speaking in foreign languages. And I don't even remember if there's subtitles in this one or not, but there aren't in the first one. But I do, as I said in the commentary for the first film, I do like the scene with Paxton, who is, and I think I said in my commentary that he was speaking Dutch, but I think he's actually speaking German. But I do like that scene, especially after I read the translation of what he was saying. And would it have been more effective had it been subtitled, or would, well, I don't know. I do not know. I think maybe there should have been tests. Another interesting thing that is in this film and is never addressed, while Lorna's death is addressed constantly, what is never addressed is the murder of a child in this movie. Nobody ever talks about that. But yeah, one of the members of the Bubblegum Gang is shot and killed. And while it is not as gruesome as some of the other stuff in the film, you do see him bleeding on the side of the road or some shit like that. And it's the killing of a child, which is considered to be one of the last, I think, taboos in American cinema. You can't kill a child in an American movie. It's just not done. Especially, you know, if it's for these kinds of reasons, or if it's in this kind of movie. I remember, I'm not going to say what it is. I'm not going to say what it is because it's a movie that a lot of people really like, and I don't so much, because I think it's kind of eh. But there is a movie that came out, I think around this time too, actually, and there is the murder of a child, a small child of about 5 or something like that. And I think it was done primarily just for shock value, much like the Lorna murder. And it was supposed to be very effective, but by the way it was done and the way the rest of the film was done, I wasn't really unnerved by it. And I do remember talking to a friend of mine at the time who was, unfortunately passed away, who was a very big fan of horror, especially extreme horror, and I told him that I had just watched the movie, and then I was kind of on it, and I remember him saying, but they killed a kid. in it. Like, that was supposed to make the movie better for some reason. Or because they pushed that boundary that the movie deserved some praise. I don't know. This is so weird. You know, I mean, while there is some violence toward women in this movie, I really don't think it's any more misogynistic than your average slasher film, than your average body count film, than your average, teenage Friday the 13th type film, where the majority of the victims are women. It's just that in this one, they are killed in much grislier fashion. And isn't it like only like 3 people? 3 of the girls? Well, 2 of the girls, 2 of the main girls, and then whatever that one's name is, who set the whole thing up, who gets her head cut off. So there's only 3. As far as girls go. So, as far as being misogynistic, I wouldn't say it's offensively so. If you compare the misogynism in this one to the homophobia in the first one, I mean, it's like the scales are tipping majorly. Is one better than the other? Is one more acceptable than the other? No. But I don't know. I don't think that the misogyny is anywhere near as extreme or as rampant as it is said in as many of the negative reviews say. But am I saying that the movie is better than a lot of the reviews say? No, I'm not. I don't particularly think this is a very good movie. I think that while the first one has its many, many, many faults, there are parts of it that I do appreciate more. And they are elements that I appreciate on a much darker level. I think the first one is darker than this one. And I think that the first one goes more for the jugular. I think it's more violent. I think it's more sadistic. I think it's definitely more brutal. But a lot of people who thought that the first one was so brutal and sadistic when it first came out think that it is ridiculously and surprisingly tame now. Or I think when this one came out, even they were saying that the first one was more tame. I didn't see this one in theaters, but I did see the first one in theater. And as I said in the commentary for it, I saw it in a packed theater, and the audience was very much into it, and every kill, every
Fuck no. Dude, you look anywhere in the world,
every brutal scene, every slice, every cut, every snip had the audience going insane. And I don't know. I can't imagine the audience being as responsive to this one. And I don't know if the audiences would have even been as the theaters would have been as full as they were for the original, because I'm pretty sure I saw the original must have been the first week it opened, because like I said, it was packed. And I'm pretty sure that my ex and me got or wanted to see it at a certain time, but that screening was sold out, so we had to wait for the next one, which was like, we had to wait like 2 hours. And we literally just hung around the movie theater and looked at posters for 2 hours. I remember that was the time, that was right around the time when that stupid Queen Latifah movie was about to come out, where she was like, say she was giving like 24 hours to live or something. I think it was called Last Holiday or some shit like that. One of those movies that just came and went, and there was a big display for it. She was wearing a red dress. I don't know why, but that sticks out to me. She was wearing this bright red dress. I think that Eli Roth likes to put on airs that he's very worldly, because he has a lot of foreign language music, and there are a lot of foreign territories that are explored in his films. But again, I think it's a crock of shit. And people say that they think that's why he and Tarantino got along so well, I don't even know if they're still buddies. But Tarantino, you just have to listen to him talk, and there's no doubt that I may not think he's the nicest person, and I may not like his movies, I like some of his movies, I can't say that, but all you have to do is listen to him talk for a couple minutes, and you know that he has encyclopedic knowledge of movies from all kinds of eras of cinema. Eli Roth tries to act like he has that same kind of encyclopedic knowledge, and people seem to think that's why they got along so well, and that's how their bond, or what their bond was based on. But I don't know. I think that Tarantino probably introduced him to a lot more movies than the other, and as opposed to the other way around. I think there was a lot of movie discussion where Tarantino said something along the lines of, "What? You've never seen such and such? Let's go to my screening room right now." Because I'm pretty sure he collects 35mm prints. Which I think is pretty fucking cool. Okay, come on now. We're in a lull here. Can we pick up the pace? He didn't have a co-writer on this, Eli Roth that is. He didn't have a co-writer on this movie, which I think is interesting, because I think he had co-writers on his others. I know he had co-writer on Green Inferno, and I'm pretty sure he had one on Cabin Fever, although I'm not sure. He might not have. It would not have surprised me if he didn't have a co-writer on that one, because it's really, really poorly written, and it's very amateurish. But this one is slightly better written than its predecessor, primarily because of the absence of the homophobic dialogue and the abundance of four-letter words.
Place, where the fuck are we?
Oh, there's one right now. But,
Stuart!
Remember when I said that I didn't know what I was doing here?
but there is some of that Eli Roth stupidity, or a lot of that Eli Roth stupidity, rather, in the script. So, I guess it does make sense that he wrote it. It's not that far-fetched after all. But funnily enough, you could see that Eli Roth stupidity in the movies that he co-wrote with other people. So,
Who kills? Oh my god, are they gonna kill us?
Not us.
Oh my god, are you gonna kill me?
No, 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 Jesus, no.
What the fuck are you doing here? What the fuck are you wearing?
Someone brought me here. Same as you. Someone I know.
see, I don't like this.
What? Stuart, please. Please just let me go. Help me get out of this chair. Please, please help me get out of this chair. Get me out of this chair.
He does go so far as to let her out of the chair. And he's trying to, you know, he's trying, I don't know. I'm still not clear on if this is this was really, no, I don't think it is, but let me finish my thought. But I was trying to decide whether this was really what he was planning all along, and this was part of his game to have a cat and mouse thing going on in the room.
Oh, that's fucking rich.
You should see your fucking face.
We gotta get out of here.
Who the fuck says that's rich anymore? Even in 2007. But one could argue that this was his game, that he wanted to have a cat and mouse thing going on in the room with her. He wanted to chase her around. That's why he let her free, blah, 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 blah. But he was reticent the whole time. He didn't want to get the tattoo. He didn't want to come to this place. You know. And then all of a sudden he's totally into it. He hates his wife. He sees Beth as his wife. She's dressed up like his wife. Is she dressed up like her now? I think she is. So maybe that could have been his MO the whole time. But then I don't know. It doesn't make sense. And speaking of the lesbianism too of the Beth character, it's barely even touched upon. It's very, very, very subtle, which I don't like. Not that it has to be overt necessarily, but I think if you're trying to redeem yourself by saying, you know, I don't have anything against gays and this is the way people talk, which is an argument that I still do not buy. And you're trying to redeem yourself by having a gay character. You have to do more than just suggest that she's a lesbian, and I think it would have been more of a redemption if the gay character was a male, because you know, there was a lot of F-bombs and, you know, limp wrist motions and shit like that in the first.
I fucking pay! You have my money, you can keep it! I'm not going back in that room! I'm done! Hey!
Now they're gonna release the hounds. What are you gonna do? Release the dogs or the bees? Or the dogs with bees in their mouths, and when they bark, they shoot bees at you? That's exactly what I would say. Word for word. And that was a Simpsons reference, by the way. Oh, there they are. They've released the hounds. Oh my god. And when I was getting back to Roth saying that, talking about the subtext of the film and what it was really about. Listening to him talk about the Bush administration on the commentary track was so laughably fucking pretentious. It was ridiculous. He was trying to sound so much like an intellectual, trying so hard, and I just wasn't buying it. Yeah, because in case you didn't know, you know, this whole thing was a metaphor for the Bush administration and all blood for oil thing, and people were dying overseas for no reason. And how this exactly is a comment on that, I don't know, and I really don't care. But he is also very, very proud of the fact that the troops like Hostel and they like Cabin Fever. I don't know. Cabin Fever I kind of get because it's an escape. It's escapism because it's so stupid. And it's fun to just laugh at it. That's why I like. That's the only reason why I like it. I never really thought it was a good movie. I just always thought it was so bad that it's good. That it's fucking hilarious. But the original Hostel, I don't know.
What do you think? Should I do it? I mean, I wouldn't pay more than $1,000 for her in this kind of shape. Look at that. She's not gonna last that long. See what she did to my friend.
Okay, so now we're at Psycho Stewart. At least he didn't do what he did in the original film, in that he made the surviving character so irredeemable, so obnoxious, so unlikable, that when he was in that chair about to be butchered, you really didn't feel sorry for him. Beth, you do feel something for because she's not a loathsome character and she's not stupid, like I said before. So she has that, and she's not overly nice in that, like, her behavior is saccharine, but in that it would have been unbelievable. But she's caring. She cares about her friends. And here we have some overacting by the actor. What's his name? Roger Bart or whatever. But yeah, you do feel something for her because of the scenes of the preceding scenes.
What? Oh, you got something to say? Do you? You do, bitch? Yeah? Oh, good. It's fucking here. What?
I'm not your wife. I'm not your wife, Stuart. I'm not your wife. She doesn't understand you. She doesn't understand you. Like I do, and I see how you're strong.
I am strong. I am fucking Hercules.
Oh God.
I know. I know. I see it. I see it.
I think that was probably an ad lib because it was kind of like she didn't know how to respond when he said I'm fucking Hercules. There was a beat and then she said I know. As soon as he yelled cut, Roth yelled cut, I would have been like, what the fuck are you doing, Stuart? Or whatever your name is.
You scared? You fucking better be.
But yeah, she's doing for the most part what you're supposed to do when you're in these kinds of situations with someone who is so devoid of any real emotion or empathy. You're supposed to humanize yourself. You're supposed to let your captor know that you are a person and you have a name and you have a family and you have people who care about you and love you. That you're not just a thing to be toyed and played with and ultimately butchered. I think there could have been a little bit more of that. I think Eli Roth. I think Eli Roth just wanted to hurry up and get to this part where, Beth kicks some ass, which is cool. I dig it. I like it. I
What's the fucking code?
I would have started knocking out some teeth.
December 12th? That is fucking sick.
But that's not really the code. That's like to alert the staff that things have gone haywire or whatever.
It's not fucking opening!
Yes, it is. Tell her she's right up there behind you! Tell her!
Oh my God. He's really bad. Jesus. I can't tell if he's trying to be funny or if he's trying to be believable.
I'm gonna buy my way out of here.
You can't afford it.
Don't tell me what I can't afford. There's nothing I can't afford.
Mm. See, I like that. She's not dumb. And the money doesn't hurt.
Bullshit! Business. I'll pay more. Well, there's a second
If there's anything positive that came out of this, is he did write a strong female character.
Money is not the only issue. We have contract here.
What kind of contract?
Anyone who come to this place cannot leave without killing.
Kill you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Trigger.
Did you say to me?
That's a callback right there.
You're a stupid fucking
One thing that I don't like in when she, gets the tattoo is she gets it as a tramp stamp. I mean, come on. You mean to tell me there was nobody at Screen Gems or Raw Nerve or Lionsgate that wasn't rolling their eyes and groaning during that? So this part here, because we're about to come up with the end when she decapitates that bitch. So did she pay for her too? I don't know. I'm guessing. I love in movies, in horror movies especially, when there's a decapitation and somebody's head comes off in one motion. I don't think it would be that easy in real life. Yay, now we're gonna play soccer with a head, a human head, whoopity-doo. This is the big, oh my god, ending. Yay. I don't know about you, but my mind is blown. Jesus Christ, this is stupid. Oh god. Oh god. Well, that was Hostel Part 2. And as always, I want to say thank you for staying with me to the bitter end. And yeah, I hope you will come back and join me for future commentaries on the Blind Rage podcast. So, until next time, this is Brandon Ford, wishing you all unpleasant dreams.